So, it's been a few days since Kuki Shinobu got released, and it seems like the popular opinion right now is that she feels underwhelming, or at least her talents are designed in a weird way. But here's the thing, after spending more time and unlocking some of her constellations, I have discovered something very suspicious about this character. It made me question how strong she might be in the future. And I know that there's a lot of rumors floating around Sumeru and Dendro, so seeing how Shinobu, who is supposedly an electro healer, can actually get affected by this is crazy, to be honest. But then you have to ask yourself a question. Why would Hoyoverse design a character whose full potential might get unleashed in the future? You see, it's not the healing or damage that I'm interested in here, it's the elemental reactions she can cause. But the thing about elemental reactions is that they're sneaky. There's a lot of stuff hidden behind them, and I asked you guys how much you knew about reactions, which to be honest didn't surprise me. Heck, if I wasn't a content creator, I would just run around with my Kuki carefree and be happy I can just cause some reactions. But with that being said, I am going to show you exactly what's so special about Shinobu right now, how powerful it can make her with constellations, and most importantly, how relevant I believe she's going to be in the game's future. But before we talk about Shinobu's future potential, a quick word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Bloodline Heroes of Lithos. Now, this is a really interesting gacha game. Instead of just collecting legendary champions, why not pass their powers on to new heirs by merging two bloodlines so that new legends will be born? Like, literally, you could go for a silly combination of marrying an orc to a succubus and producing one scary looking unit that grows into an even scarier looking orc succubus. And there's plenty of bloodlines to choose from, like Dragonborn, Lycans, Dark Elves, and so on. You can combine any of these clans to create unique and interesting units. You can also increase your unit intimacy to have stronger offspring, or you can marry two powerful champions to produce something like half Dragonborn with insane stats. Also, the game is pretty relaxing. You can play it in vertical mode, do a little bit of strategizing by building your kingdom and economy. And right now, by using my link in the description, you can start the game strong with rewards worth of over $20. Just make sure to use my code shown here and redeem one champion token, gold, and diamonds. Most important of all, you'll help support my channel, so make sure to check out Bloodline Heroes of Lithos now. Alright, so let's just get the basic stuff out of the way. Elemental reactions is the core gameplay system of Genshin, and if you do something like apply Pyro and then Electro afterwards, you get Overload, right? So far, so good, but now the tricky part comes next. Even if you do combine both elements, the character which triggers the reaction is actually limited to how many times they can trigger the reaction, because of something called internal cooldown or ICD. I'm sure you noticed this by yourself, but it's also important to understand because once Dendro element becomes available, it's very likely it will also follow the same rules of how you can trigger the reaction. So if we go back to Shinobu, I already showcased in my last video how many times she can actually trigger a reaction with her skill, which came out to be 5 times exactly. Keep in mind this can be counted separately for each different enemy, but the point is, that's actually pretty good considering we're talking about C0 Shinobu. In fact, comparing her to someone like Fischl, who has been used in a lot of meta teams, she can score a total of 4 reactions from Oz, or at least that's what I was able to come up with after many times I tested it, but this means Kuki can do one more reaction than Fischl. Yes, there are hidden things in the game's code like gauge units, which means Fischl will apply more Electro when combined with her passive talent, so considering this, it could be a better option going with Fischl than Kuki. However, I don't want to get into Electro application here. I want to talk about how many times it can cause reactions with Kuki. See, the thing is, I found it really suspicious that almost every single constellation has to do something with Kuki's elemental skill. By this point, if you haven't seen mine or other content creator reviews, her burst is just lackluster, feels out of place, and deals really low, and I mean really low damage. So we're honestly just left with her skill. But why do I even bring up her constellations? Well, because it turns out they're actually going to be impactful for the future, and to be fair, a lot of us assume when we talk about 4-star characters that they have some if not all constellations unlocked, especially as we keep on playing the game. And don't forget, if the same rule follows, Kuki will also end up on the standard banner like any other new 4-star character, which means there's even higher likelihood the majority of player base will end up with at least a few constellations unlocked for her. So going back to her constellations, the first one doesn't matter because it improves her burst AoE range and it's basically just adding insult to injury. But second constellation will increase the skill's duration by additional 3 seconds. Aside from the fact it will even out her cooldown and duration to exactly 15 seconds, giving perfect uptime for buffs like Tenacity of Millelith, she will now also be able to cause an additional reaction, increasing from 5 to 6. That's already pretty good and she's only at C2, so if there's a chance Electro has a reaction with Dendro, well, it's going to be easier to cause more reactions. And more is always better, right? Now, skipping the third constellation, which basically improves healing, the fourth one is pretty huge. at least in my opinion. What will happen now is that every 5 seconds when a character uses one of the normal attacks, an Electro AoE explosion will occur and will deal damage. And it scales with health. Isn't that amazing? Actually, no. The damage is yet again laughable, the multiplier is about the same as a single hit from the burst, and we already know how bad this is. However, what really matters here is that thanks to this new ability, you can actually trigger 2 more reactions. And you can see here how this can be accomplished on a single target. While the skill is busy pulsing and causing reactions, her C4 can be triggered by any normal attack, like with Benny Boy here. And in total, I was able to score 8 reactions, which in my opinion is pretty amazing. Now, I understand that in reality, not every target sits and just takes the beating, but all this really means is that you get a lot more opportunities to cause reactions, and you have to understand, they happen very slowly, so most of the time, Kuki will be responsible for triggering them, and her elemental mastery will be used for these reactions. Think of it like this, right now, if on average you can get 14,400 damage from a single overload, well, if it happens 8 times, this could end up as 115,000 damage. Finally, C6 gives her a chance to survive a fatal hit, but really, the latter part of the description is yet again appealing to this whole reaction playstyle. When she gets below 25% health, she gains 150 EM. This can be achieved naturally by getting hit, or if she starts with full health, it will take 4 skill activations in total to get this bonus. I honestly don't think this constellation will be important in the grand scheme of things, because of the long 60-second cooldown. However, you cannot help but think, why is Hoiver so bent on making Shinobu into this non-stop reaction machine? Sure, you could say that's 150 EM or 75% of it just improving her healing, but then again, that also improves her reactions as well. So, as you can see, going from C0 where you can cause 5 reactions with her skill, all the way to 8 reactions at C4 is pretty cool, but at the same time, this also means that her design, even if she has weird things like health scaling burst, is really all about her reaction or elemental mastery playstyle. So the big question is, will this make her really strong in the future? Look, I'm not gonna lie, even with 4th Constellation unlocked, which is like her peak potential in my opinion, I'm just not so certain that Kuki will become this insanely broken unit if there would be new reactions with an element like Dendro. However, I do believe this makes her more flexible for future reactions, since she does offer a very consistent Electro application, which can be triggered up to 8 times with a skill and 4 times with her burst, so you have a total of 12 chances to trigger many different reactions when using her in a single rotation. Like, the thing is, she can be used for reactions now, and I don't see a lot of people in the community praising her for this, especially considering that she can easily deal 14 to 20,000 damage with overloads, or a bit less but still respectable amount with Electro Charge. If there would be new reactions with Electro, and specifically if Kuki would be causing them, can they provide more value than what already exists right now in the game? Will the new reaction types match the 15,000 damage overloads? I mean, we could talk about the fact that Overload has this annoying knockback effect, or how random sometimes Electro Charge can be, or even with all things considered, if for example using her in National, how many of those reactions are actually triggered when everyone else's burst is deployed in the middle of chaos with enemies around who may or may not have elemental auras on them already? I think in the end, as long as our precious Shinobu can find more teams that can be used with her, if we talk about places like the Abyss, then I would be already happy about this as a player. I'm honestly getting a bit tired of niche 4 stars that Hoyoverse is going with. While they can be fun, like Goro and Kujo Sora boosting their own elements, as well as Yunjin boosting normal attacks, or Toma who shields, or Sayu who I guess rolls around, it would also be great to have some new flexible 4 stars for players to collect. Still, it seems very suspicious the way Hoyoverse designed Kuki Shinobu. While her kit is all over the place, when speaking in terms of meta, she's pretty good for taser teams as a healer, and she's the first Electro healer, yet I wouldn't call her a niche unit, even if it does look like it, especially considering how many constellations support her elemental skill and reactions. So maybe, just maybe, when new reactions come out, this healer will become more flexible, or perhaps even more dangerous than what we have right now. One last thing I want to mention is that 2.8 livestream is just around the corner. Hopefully we can get some news or at least acknowledgement about Sumeru, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who's anxious to see the new big region, and hopefully some new and exciting gameplay mechanics as well. I mean, anyone who pulls for Kuki Shinobu right now could be in the same position as with Yoimiya or Kokomi, although to be honest, we just didn't know how to use Kokomi back then, and she was perfectly fine from the start. However, for someone like Yoimiya, Yelan and Xingqiu have made her into a mean killing machine. So again, you never know what will happen with a character in the future. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I'd appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel and leave a like. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.